question. Just tell whether you also think that the criminals start thinking and imagining things where the police officials stop thinking. What I mean to say is, do the criminals often outsmart the police? And if no, then how do they manage to break the jails? How do they manage to hoodwink and evade the most intelligent minds in the police machinery? Well, this chapter which I have taken this time with you is on the same theme. Evans tries an O level, the name of the chapter, by calling texture. And here we see how the protagonist, who actually turns out to be the villain of the story, but he does a very heroic act of breaking the jail the fourth time. He is a 3-time jailbreak already and manages to break the jail and run under the nose of the whole jail police machinery the fourth time. Introducing myself again as Sumit Ravindran, lecturer English from Kendriya Vidyalaya number 1 Army, Jodhpur. Well, students, this is the HM prison, Oxford, which houses hardcore criminals as well as those criminals who have got some congenital disorders. In this story, we have this James Roderick Evans, a prisoner, who of course turns out to be a hero. Although he is a villain, as I just said, he breaks the jail the fourth time in the broad daylight, in the glare of all the intelligent jail officers. And you will see how Evans outsmarts, outwits, and outperforms all the three officers, particularly the governor, Mr. Jackson and Mr. Stephens. Let me introduce you to this author, Colin Dexter. Well, this story is the brainchild of this marvelous crime fiction writer born in United Kingdom, and he has been known for wonderful pieces of crime literature. His contribution to crime fiction has been marvelous. He has always been known for a twist in the story and anticlimax, as we will see in this particular story as well. Another theme of this chapter is, should criminals in prison be given the opportunity of learning and education? And the answer would be yes. You must have heard about Kiran Bedi, who initiated many jail reforms in Tihar jail, the high risk security jail. You see the prisoners attempting examinations, doing yoga, and various projects are conducted for them. These are the yogic sessions to reform them, not just punish. Some recreational activities like games. And you will see the examination after studying, after getting tuitions. So education also allowed over there. Well, coming to the story, now let me introduce you to the characters, the first two of whom I have already introduced you to, the secretary of the examination department and the governor of the HM prison, Oxford. Then we have Evans, the prisoner, Jackson, the senior prison officer, Stephens, the junior prison officer, Reverend S. McCleary, the invigilator, and Mr. Carter, the detective superintendent of police. This is the governor. He is often referred to as Good-for-a-giggle Gullible Governor, because you will see that he often gets duped by Evans. And now this Evans was whom I was talking about, the unruly looking, the unkempt headed and the bearded fellow. There he is. This is Stephens, the junior jail officer. The junior jail officer, always agile on his feet and at the command of his seniors. And there, Jackson, the senior prison officer, well, very alert, war medals on his chest, and has had a glorious career so far. So far, I mean. And there you have Reverend McCleary, the church parson, the clergyman, a good humored fellow, acting as an invigilator here. Well, the evening before the examination, that is 7 June to be more precise, Ivan's German teacher, who had been coming there for the past 10 months in the cell, wished him a very good luck. Good luck for tomorrow, said he. Well, thank you. I may surprise everybody, said Evans. The night turned into day. The next morning, 8th of June, early 8:30 a.m. Jackson and Stephen visit Evans' cell. Evans' face was unshaven and he wore a filthy-looking red and white bobble hat as usual. Give me a chance, Mr. Jackson. I was just going to shave when you bust in. Well, which reminds me, said Jackson, make sure that you take his razor out of the cell when he is finished scraping that ugly mug of his, he said to Stephens. Clear? And this ugly bobble hat, that dirty woolen thing, take that bloody hat off. And I seriously hate these ugly, these wavy long hair of yours. I don't want to see them anymore. But sir, this lucky hat, this bobble hat has been the only lucky charm I have had so far, sir. Buried somewhere in Jackson was a tiny core of compassion, and Evans knew it. Okay, just this once then. But make sure that you shave your face and handle the razor back to Stephens. All right? All right, well, sir, students, all right, okay. ये shaving razor का तो पता नहीं कि वापस लिया भी कि नहीं लिया, but nail scissors were taken away by Jackson's the previous evening itself. Just wait. What is this preparation all about? This senior officer Jackson asking Evans to take off his dirty bobble hat and groom himself up, shave his ugly mug of his muggy beard of his. What is this all about? Well, it is a grand occasion, a very risky occasion at that as well. Our main character Evans, the prisoner in the Oxford jail, is about to write the O-level examination today, that is June 8 in the morning, and Jackson is here at 8:30 and he is asking him to groom himself up and taking all the necessary precautions as directed by the governor. Well, what is O-level, you may be wondering. O-level is a sort of degree or a certificate that makes you eligible for a certain course. Just as you do BA, just as you have 6 months certificate in something, you have an O-level. In computers also you have A-level, O-level. And in languages also, like German language, there is an O-level, that is a certain level of qualification that a person can attain. So our prisoner is given a chance to educate himself and do the O-level in German language. It is early March when the secretary of the examination board receives a call from the Oxford prison governor. And here the conversation goes. Oxford prison governor, secretary examination department. Remember, Evans, this prisoner, has been taking individual tuitions from a tutor who comes into the jail. Has been taking individual tuitions from September last till this March. Actually, in fact, he is going to take yet more 3 months more till June. He will be continuing with the tuitions, but the permission has to be taken from the examination department. So the governor, sir, is it secretary examination department, please? Yes, governor. Officer, yes, how can I help you? Sir, it's an unusual request. We have a prisoner over here, a criminal actually, Evans, Roderick Evans. He wants to appear for the O-level German language examination. Can you allow him to take the exam, please? Well, it's an unusual request, although, but then let's give him a chance. Of course, every prisoner must be given an opportunity to educate himself and reform himself. Well, thank you so much, Secretary. So very kind of you. Well, the chap is called Evans, and he has been taking night classes in the O-level German since last September. Remember, students, it is early March that he is taking permission in, and the examinations are supposed to be held in June, early June, and 8th June to be more precise. Well, let's give him a chance, says the secretary. Thank you so much, sir. So very kind of you. Well, one worry is, Mr. Governor, I have a worry. Yes, sir, please go ahead. Well, does he have a violent record? Is he a violent fellow? Does he have any criminal record of violence, sir? Well, do not have to worry anything regarding it, sir. He is actually very good humored fellow. He has good friends, is friendly as well. Only that he has a sort of disorder. He is congenitally kleptomaniac. You mean he has a habit of stealing things out of no reason at all? Yes, sir. He steals things no reason at all. But then he is not at all violent, sir. Nothing to worry. So it would be so very kind of you. बहुत अच्छा होगा अगर आप एक इन्विजिलेटर हमारे जेल में ही भेज दें और उसका एग्ज़ाम यहाँ करवा दें. He is the only individual examiner over here. We will be taking good care of him. All right, sir. So let's fix the date. Thank you so much, sir. So children, here goes the communication, the conversation, and the permission is granted. And in June, the coming June, he is going to appear for that O-level German language exams. Kleptomania. Well, you may be wondering, students, what it is. You must know. It is a psychological disorder that causes an uncontrollable obsession with stealing, and the thief has no economic or material purpose behind it. Well, June early, that was 8th of June, and it was 8:45 in the morning when this church clergyman, Mr. McCleary, Stuart McCleary, set off from the exam department. 8:45. He was wearing a black overcoat, shallow crowned clergy hat. Reverend Stuart McCleary, the clergyman from church sent by the examination department, supposed to be sent by the examination department, wearing a clerical hat, long overcoat, bit of stubble. Stubble means a little beard, more than I do. I have actually shaven my face. But he had a little stubble, little beard, very short cropped hair, long face, round, thick lenses, the spectacles, specs, which were protecting him from the drizzle, a little drizzle in the air, and of course wearing a stud, the white collar, the clergyman's collar, black front, the kind that the parsons of the church people wear, the ministers of the church wear. And in his right hand he was carrying a the brown suitcase, and of course in the brown suitcase there were certain things which were later to be frisked and checked by the senior officer. See children, right from the departure of Reverend McCleary, remember the invigilator, Reverend McCleary, right from his departure at 8:45 till 9:15 when the examination was supposed and scheduled to start, Evans had half an hour, and this is exactly what Jackson tells him ki, hey Evans, you have half an hour to ready yourself and smarten yourself up and keep off that bloody hat, that bobble hat of yours. Remember, he hated that filthy looking dirty hat which Evans always wore, and Evans had asked for that excuse ki, please, this is my lucky charm, and surprisingly Jackson had agreed to it. We will see if that was a great mistake that Jackson did. We'll find it out later. And the examination was scheduled to start at 9:15 a.m. Remember, it was scheduled to start at 9:15. But did it really start? We'll see later. And Jackson again came in for a brief little appearance. Of course, they were pretty cautious, and he warned him with sharp, intimidating eyes. Behave yourself, laddie. Behave. Don't try any mischief. And just as he said it, Evans' look looks up onto the door, and he is such a sharp, shrewd fellow. He notices that spy microphone fixed on the door, and he says, "Why bugging, dear? Am I being bugged?" And Jackson said, "Yes. The governor does not want to take any risk. He knows that you are a cunning fellow, and you will find every opportunity to escape. You are a jailbreak, Evans. See? Remember." Jackson continues. He says, "Evans, nobody in his senses would take any chance with you." And he says, "I'll tell you who is going to listen to, laddie. It's the governor himself who is going to listen to you, and he doesn't trust you a bit." So, well, after warning Evans, Jackson murmured under his breath to Stephens. He said, "Get the razor. Remember, children, get the razor." And that razor with which Evans was asked to shave his beard was with him all night. Remember, did he do anything mischief with it later, or had he already done something with it? We will see later. But then Jackson murmurs to Stephens, "Get the razor." Now, McCleary, the invigilator from the exam department, remember, the clergyman, arrives at the jail, and he is escorted towards Evans' cell by Stephens. He introduces him to Evans. Okay, sir, that's him, sir, that's him, that is Evans. And just imagine Evans hooking up onto the grammar book of German and pretending to study hard. Yes, rivetingly pretending to study hard to do the German studies. Stephens opens the lock, the key out of the ring, and the cell door open. Well, the invigilator McCleary, having arrived from exam department, governor has butterflies in his stomach. He knows full well Evans has this disposition to break the jail. Well, he's wondering whether the jail premises are safe. Well, yes, he's thinking, sitting in a locked cell, all the prison officers on the alert, two more locked doors between his cell and the yard, and a yard with a wall as high as a haystack. Well, still, was Evans safe? Well, the devils of fear do not leave the governor. He continuously is haunted by fears. He imagines Evans holding McCleary hostage with a jackknife. And McCleary, he cannot suspect the invigilator, of course. After all, McCleary to exam department se aaye hain. So he imagines McCleary bringing innocently a jackknife, and Evans catching hold of him and cutting his throat. And what if he got into violence? Although Evans has never been known for any violence, because आपको याद होगा उन्होंने सेक्रेटरी एग्जामिनेशन डिपार्टमेंट को बोला था कि उसका कोई वायलेंट रिकॉर्ड नहीं है. स्टिल, who knows? बात है, who knows what's going on in Evans' mind? After all, he is the 3-time jailbreak. He is called the jailbird. So that is why the urgent thought that comes to the governor's mind is frisk the invigilator McCleary. Uski talashi li jaye. He asks Jackson to go. Immediately he calls him and he says, "Ask McCleary to come out of the cell." And Jackson does immediately exactly that. He says, "Sir, can you come outside a minute, sir? And you too, Stephens."
Well, who knows, अनजाने में कुछ ऐसी कोई डेंजरस थिंग ले आए हो मैक्लेरी जो उनके लिए खुद के लिए रिस्की हो, एंड देयर कुड बी एन नंबर ऑफ वेज बाय विच इवांस कुड हैव प्लॉटेड हिज एस्केप. So the governor didn't want to take any chances. So frisking was important. So arms akimbo, just as the airport authorities do the security check, his clothes were frisked by Jackson. And what are the things that McCleary had brought in his brown suitcase? Of course, there were certain things for like invigilation envelope, yellow colored one, a question paper envelope. There was this newspaper, the Church Times, which he would read to idle away his time. There was Bible also. Don't forget, he was a clergyman. And in his pockets, pants pockets, there was this spectacle case which was a little hard, so he answered it is the case of the glasses. And something objectionable, that is paper knife. Later on Jackson takes it back. But apart of all these things, there is something which was really objectionable, and Jackson could not help but raise his query about it. He asked, you will see now.
Do you mind telling me why you have brought this, sir? Jackson said, and he held up a smallish, semi-inflated rubber ring, such as a young child with a waist of about 12 inches might have struggled into. And Jackson, in a very sarcastic vein, of course, with a bit of humor as well, वो पूछते हैं मैक्लेरी से कि यू थिंकिंग ऑफ गोइंग फॉर अ स्विम सर इज देयर अ सॉर्ट ऑफ स्विमिंग पूल इनसाइड वेल दैट वाज sarcastic. Such sarcasm seemed tasteless to the invigilator. He could not gulp it down. He showed his displeasure also, and look what he says. He says, if you must know, I suffer from hemorrhoids, and when I am sitting down for any length of time, further he meant he needed some cushion. जब हेमोरॉइड्स की जिसको प्रॉब्लम होती है ना पाइल्स की, तो when they sit तो नीचे उनको कुशन चाहिए होता है so that they can sit for long. It's wondering what, right students? It is actually piles which causes a lot of discomfort in one's bottom, and it is caused because of the swelling of veins in that area of a person. He needs an inflated and air-filled rubber tube to put it under one's bottom. You could put it on a chair or anywhere you sit and feel comfortable. Long sittings can be very helpful, and that is why one feels comfortable putting it underneath. Well, such a discovery is bound to make Jackson embarrassed, and he is. So उसके cheeks red हो गए out of embarrassment, and when he goes on searching, एक paper knife he finds, and he says, I will keep this paper knife, sir. It could be dangerous, so kindly don't mind that.
Well, it seems like the governor will never stop worrying. It's but natural, of course. Evans has been a 3-time jailbreak. तो जो पेपर 9:15 पे स्टार्ट होना था अभी तक वो नहीं हुआ. And now in the keeping of Stephens, now when the Stephens is on the watch outside the cell, there is a McCleary with Evans inside the cell, and formalities भरनी है papers की, as we also do in the examination. So McCleary tells Evans कि come on, जो आपका जो आंसर शीट है, ये क्वेश्चन पेपर एक्चुअली भरना था, उसमें there is this top right hand corner, वहाँ पर आपको भरना है index number is 313. And just below that there are boxes in which you fill the center number, and that is 271. So 313 271. Evans fills in the formalities, and now it's 9:25 a.m. and the paper is just about to start. Well, by the way, nobody suspected anything fishy behind these two कोड्स 313 एंड 271. अभी तक किसी को शक नहीं हुआ. क्या पुलिस को इस बारे में थोड़ा सोचना चाहिए था? वेल, वी विल सी लेटर इफ देयर इज समथिंग हिडन, some hidden secret behind it.
Howsoever late, but yet the paper finally starts at 9:25 a.m. It was the junior jail officer Stephens who was given the task of standing or sitting outside the cell door in which the exam was being conducted. He was sitting outside the door, and he had to peer through the peephole of the door every 1 minute, or if he thought so, then every 2 minutes. That was his role. For the first 15 minutes, nothing untoward, nothing fishy happened. Well, at 9:40 a.m. something happened. Something that triggered the worry nerves of the governor happened. And that was a call from the examination department from assistant secretary at 9:40 a.m. And they were asking for a correction slip to be given to Evans. And they had said, well, there was a correction slip which some fool had forgotten to place in the examination package. So could the governor please hand it over to the officer in charge and thereafter convey it to Evans? And amid all the doubts and all the fears, the governor does exactly that. He transfers the call to Jackson, who conveys the correction slip to McCleary, the invigilator. Within 2 minutes, The governor hears McCleary saying this to Evans. Will you please stop writing a while, Mr. Evans, and listen carefully? Candidates offering German 0211 should note the following correction. On page 3, such and such line, such and such word, the correct word should be goldenen, zum goldenen lauen, and not zum goldene. So it was goldenen and not goldene. Later on, children, you will learn that it means golden loin, which translates into German as goldenen lauen. Goldenen.
Some golden lawen. ये सुनना और गवर्नर को शायद पहली स्माइल आई होगी उसके चेहरे पे. When he remembers, he goes back to his own past of 6th class, his 6th form, and when he learned a bit of German also. So that's why he knows a bit of German, the adjectives and the agreements of subject and verb and stuff. Well, anyways, immediately right after this, he gets a call from the magistrate's court, and the magistrate's court is asking for a prison van along with 2 prison officers. Now, remand case, as they say, it was a case of remand, and they needed a van, the prison van, and 2 prison officers. Now, this was fishy, although normally this would have been a very mundane thing to happen, very natural thing. After all, he would provide them with the officers, but today being a special day, he suddenly started getting doubtful back again. Doubtful कि कहीं ऐसा नहीं कि ये हॉक्स कॉल है, ये होक्स कॉल है. होक्स मीन्स कहीं झूठी कॉल तो नहीं है, क्या पता कोई और बात हो इसमें. So, but suddenly he shrugged himself off. He says, "Don't be so silly, Governor. Don't be so silly. Things are fine." Well, then he sends the van along with his 2 prison officers. Children, very importantly, the sitting position, the manner in which the examinee as well as the invigilator, that is Evans and McCleary, were sitting in the cell. It could have some clues into how Evans plotted his escape. See, Evans at 10:45 a.m. when Stephens peeped inside the cell through the peephole, he was surprised. Actually, he was surprised that Evans was still not writing anything. He was keeping the pen in between his lips, this way, see, and staring fixedly at something on the floor, as if thinking, drawing something out of his head, as if seeking some divine inspiration from somewhere. And this way he was sitting. अब जहाँ तक मैक्लेरी का सवाल है, McCleary, the invigilator, sitting across the table, short cropped hair, very close to the scalp. Now here, he is holding the newspaper, the Church Times, and very short-sightedly reading it. And his eyes are behind the pebble lenses. That is the pebble lenses. Pebble lens, very thick lenses he is wearing. And very importantly, he is holding his index finger, tucking the index finger inside the white clerical collar, here this way, all the while. And with the left hand's fingers, he is actually, this way, stroking his short black beard, that way, this way. Of course, the newspaper was kept on the table, perhaps, or holding it sometimes, but then this way, well, Stephens saw that and thought of mentioning it to Jackson, but never seriously thought about making it an issue. Was there something fishy about it? Nobody suspected it. Let's see how it turned out to be so.
While इधर हमारा जूनियर ऑफिसर स्टीफेंस मैक्लेरी और इवांस की पोजीशंस और उनके मैनरिज्म्स का विश्लेषण और विजिलेंस करने में एब्सोल्युटली बिजी है, और उधर 10:50 and the receiver crackles to life and the governor is busy listening to the microphone. Remember, he had got that small spy microphone hooked onto the door of the cell. So he listens this time. It's 10:50 and suddenly he hears a whisper from Evans. Please, sir. Please, sir. Would you mind if I put a blanket around my shoulders, sir? It's a bit cold over here. And well, this is Evans asking his invigilator, McCleary. And McCleary, sensing that it is really cold over there, he agrees to it. He says, okay, chalo, you can put the blanket around your shoulders. Just 1 minute later, when Stephens again peered through the peephole inside the cell, he was more than a little surprised to see a grey regulation blanket draped around Ivan's shoulders. That is, Evans was draping around himself a blanket, the grey blanket that was kept for him. And that was surprising. This sent McCleary into a doubt, and actually he wondered whether he should report it to Jackson. Was it fishy?
Look at the crazy levels that these people are imagining things. Stephens, when he looks into the peephole at 10:51 a.m., when he notices Evans has draped the dirty grey blanket over his shoulders, he imagines, goodness, is this man Evans trying to or planning to make a Batman kind of leap upon McCleary and suffocate him? Well, that was one of the dangerous imaginations, and he then cooled off. He told to himself, relax, Stephens, relax. Nothing of that sort would happen. Calm down, calm down. Don't take too much of a trouble. It's okay.
इधर जूनियर ऑफिसर स्टीफेंस का शक है और डर है कि वो बढ़ता ही जा रहा है. एंड देयर द गवर्नर इज स्केयर्ड एज हेल. ही इज प्रेइंग हार्ड फॉर द एग्जाम टू गेट ओवर. And in no time 11:20 comes, and then 11:22 a.m. Just about 3 minutes more, and governor cannot resist. He picks up the phone and calls out for Stephen. Okay, I want to talk to him. Jackson conveys the message to Stephens. He picks up the receiver and he is ordered, Stephens, you have to accompany the invigilator McCleary back to the prison main gate yourself. And make sure that you bolt and lock the cell door for Evans. Lock him on before you leave with McCleary. Understood? Stephen said. Yes, sir, understood. Finally, at 11:25 a.m., the governor heard the final exchanges. Stop writing, please, McCleary said, as it often happens whenever the examination gets over. Stop writing, please. And then silence. The governor heard the door clang for the last time. After McCleary leaves the cell, the examination was over. अब छोड़ के तो आना है इन्विजिलेटर मैक्लेरी को. So Stephens is happy, relieved to no end. He thinks of talking to him. Ki, sir, how was the paper? And McCleary is not that happy with it. But then अचानक से suddenly he notices McCleary. Of course मन में तो ये चल रहा है ना कि who knows whether is Evans whom I am dropping off, or is something else happening which I may not be aware of. So because the times are such and scare is so heavy, so suddenly he notices the Scottish English accent that McCleary has while he speaks. बोलने का लहजा जो है वो स्कॉटिश एक्सेंट थोड़ा ब्रॉडर है. तो क्या ये शक लॉजिकल था? इज नॉट श्योर. अनदर थिंग दैट ही नोटिसेस इज द ओवरकोट, द ब्लैक ओवरकोट दैट मैक्लेरी इज वेयरिंग seems to be longer. It seems to be longer than it was previously. Longer than it was previously. Why? क्या वो थिन हुआ है, थोड़ा पतला हुआ है? Previously when he had escorted him towards the cell, when he was brought towards the cell, Evans' cell, before the examination, he seemed a little thick, but now he's seeming little thin and lean. Why? Well, anyways, he doesn't bother too much over it. Finally, after all, the paper had been over and nothing wrong had happened. Following the orders of the governor, the junior officer Stephens escorted the invigilator, Reverend McCleary, back to the main prison gate. And now he returns, very, very happy. The task accomplished. 2 hours for the examination over. Let's have a cup of coffee. But suddenly he thinks of going back to the cell where Evans was locked. And he thought, let's ascertain, let's make sure whether it was really locked. Just a thought. D wing, as it is called, Stephens, the junior officer, comes to the Evans cell and opens the peephole once more. Oh no! Christ, no! There he saw a man sitting on the Evans chair. And it was none other than McCleary, the Reverend McCleary, the invigilator, whom he supposed to have escorted back to the gate. And this man McCleary is seriously wounded, my goodness. Red blood dripping over his hair, onto his beard, and whole blanket reddened. My goodness. Well, that means have I escorted Evans back to the main prison gate? Strangely, McCleary, the wounded McCleary, was insisting on calling the police and not the ambulance, although he was grievously injured. Look at the lines. He says, don't worry about the ambulance, man. Just call the police. These are the lines, students, wherein McCleary wants to show that the question paper itself, the German question paper itself, had something fishy about it. And he himself takes it upon himself, to bring it to the governor and tell him, see, look at the question paper. He thrust it into the governor's face and said, do you see what I mean? And the governor looked down and realized what McCleary was trying to tell him. A really strange fact came to light. A photocopied sheet had been carefully and cleverly superimposed over the last page, which was actually originally blank in the question paper. मतलब आखिरी पेज क्वेश्चन पेपर का बैक साइड ब्लैंक होता है ओरिजिनली, लेकिन यहाँ पर कुछ लिखा हुआ था जर्मन लैंग्वेज में, a photocopied sheet on it. Now see children, this is important. It will have some clues on how Evans later on evades the police and escapes, as it's very clear he will be escaping and breaking the jail the 4th time. Now you see this invigilator McCleary, the wounded one, the bleeding one, and the pain-ridden McCleary. He is so enthusiastic, so over-eager to bring facts to the governor. And now governor knows a bit of German as well. So see how he shows the last page, the photocopied sheet, which he shows, and some German written over there. You see the first 2.5 lines, that is German, and he can read into the face of the governor that the governor is able to follow what is written, which translates into English. इसमें क्या लिखा है? You must follow the plan already somethinged. The vital point in time is 3 minutes before the end of the examination. That is from 11:22 to 11:25 a.m. Remember? So the vital time is 3 minutes before the end of the examination. But something. Do not hit him too hard. Remember, he is a minister. And don't overdo the Scots accent. Do not hit him too hard. That means, as according to the photocopied sheet written in German language, Evans was instructed by someone from examination department not to hit McCleary too hard so that he does not die. So that McCleary does not die and Evans easily may be able to escape. So that was a clear sort of instruction to Evans not to hit his invigilator McCleary too hard. Just enough hit so as to make him injured. इतने में detective superintendent Carter आ जाते हैं. He comes and salutes the governor, looks at McCleary, gets shocked, says, Christ, who's hit him? But McCleary comes, intercepts again, and before governor could say anything, he immediately says, Elsfield Way, officer, Elsfield Way. I know where Evans has gone. I know where Evans. So convinced are they that McCleary knows everything that had happened in the jail. They immediately decided to take the injured McCleary to Elsfield Way. So the detective Carter took him along in his car to the Elsfield Way. And here the governor is left in the prison, reading the last few lines of the German text. You remember the photocopied sheet pasted on the last sheet of the question paper? He reads, from Elsfield Way Drive to the Headington roundabout, where, yes, of course, and the governor goes on to interpret where. Of course, the examination board was there on the Elsfield Way, and there must have been someone from the examination board who was involved in the escape plan from the very beginning. The question paper itself, the correction slip, and the governor went on thinking of it. And now it was a time for officers Jackson and Stephens to take the scolding. He immediately takes notice of these two officers and shouts, I don't need to tell you what's happened, do I? And which one of you two morons was it who took Evans for a nice little walk to the main gates and waved him bye-bye? Stephen said, it was me, sir. Just like you told me, sir, I could have sworn. Shut up! What? Just like I told you, you say. What the hell? You blithering idiot! It wasn't me who rang you. It wasn't me who rang you. Don't you realize? And then he turns to Jackson and blurted out, as for you, Jackson, how long have you been pretending you have got a brain? Well, I'll tell you something. Jackson, your skull is empty. Absolutely empty. Well, his anger is justifiable on Jackson and Stephens. Particularly on Jackson, who had spent 2 hours in Evans' cell the previous evening. And it was Jackson who had confidently reported that there was nothing hidden away there, nothing at all. And if governor understands it correctly, Evans had somehow managed to conceal, to hide, not only a false beard, a pair of spectacles, a clergy's white collar, and all of the rest of clerical paraphernalia, that is the long overcoat and the black front, but also that weapon with which he gave a terrible blow to McCleary. That was disgusting. Whatever, the harsh reality was that Evans, the break, had broken the jail the 4th time and under the nose of the governor. What a beautifully laid plan it had all been. The governor was secretly admiring the intelligence of Evans. What a clever fellow Evans was. But then he had been careless also. Careless, leaving that question paper behind. Yes, and that would be his unbecoming. He will be caught. Now again to the last line of the German. The governor looks down. He reads, to the Headington roundabout, where you go straight over and make your way to Nogra Bane. Nogra Bane? Where on earth? New something, new grave. Ah, yes. Newbury. Yes, it strikes him. Newbury. And that's the place where we will nab him. Yes, and he decides now to leave for that place, Newbury. Governor receives this call from the superintendent, Detective Carter. By the way, Carter, I hope you managed to get McCleary to the hospital, all right? Yes, He is in the Radcliffe Hospital now, said Carter. Really groggy, sir, he was, when we got to the examination offices. And someone from the exam rang for the ambulance from there. So we left McCleary at the exam department. अब जब गवर्नर ने रैडक्लिफ हॉस्पिटल के एक्सीडेंट डिपार्टमेंट को फ़ोन किया ये जानने के लिए कि क्या उन्होंने एक एम्बुलेंस भेजकर एल्सफील्ड वे जहाँ एग्ज़ाम डिपार्टमेंट है वहाँ पर एम्बुलेंस भेजकर क्या उस घायल मैक्लेरी को पिकअप किया, तो ये जवाब, तो दिस इज़ द आंसर ही गेट्स फ्रॉम देयर एंड ही गेट्स शॉक ऑफ हिज लाइफ. ओह दैट, yes, so we sent an ambulance, all right, but when we got there the fellow had gone. No one seemed to know where he was. Just vanished, not a sign. That is what the answer was from the governor was no longer listening, and the truth seemed to hit him with an almost physical impact somewhere in the back of his neck. Of an hour later, they found the Reverend S. McCleary securely bound and gagged in his study in Broad Street, and he had been there since 8:15 a.m. Very well understood, it was a friend, the fake McCleary, the imposter McCleary who had come in as an invigilator, who, along with another friend of his, had gagged the real McCleary. Well, students, half-heartedly though, the police inquired about in Newbury for the whereabouts of Evans, but to no avail. Of course, he could not be found over there. It was pretty clear by now that Evans had conspired with his good friend, the fake McCleary, the fake invigilator who had come in to the Evans cell, and he had evaded the police. And it was to no avail searching about for him. It was pretty clear by now that it was not that Evans went out impersonating McCleary earlier. No. In fact, it was Evans who had stayed in impersonating McCleary.
Evans had managed to evade the whole prison department, the whole police department. Governor had been befooled once again. The good-for-a-giggle gullible governor, as he was called, and he has proved that to be true. Feeling ashamed, he somehow had to pick up pieces, knowing full well that the first person that Stephens had escorted back to the main prison gate was in no way real McCleary. He was an impostor. He must have been a friend of Evans, because how could they find the real McCleary bound and gagged up at Broad Street? And thereafter, so very funnily, actually, governor was left really shamefaced that they left Evans out as in the second place after he had impersonated as McCleary. I mean, taking him to be McCleary, they escorted him to exam department, and Carter was befooled. Jackson had been befooled previously. Stephens, of course, being the junior one, he was bound to be deceived. What was the real trouble? Why could police not detect what Evans was up to? How could he hide all those things with which he could bring that blood up onto his head? Where did he go? And many questions still remain to be answered. Well, will the governor along with the police department be able to catch Evans, and if yes, how, and if no, then how would Evans still manage to dupe them, fool them, and outwit them? Well, in the next part I will sure come up. Thank you so much, and it's a real pleasure. It has been a real pleasure making this video lesson for you. Thank you, students.